Peace and blessing, soul family. Adam Jackson here with another episode of the Sacred Sons podcast. Sacred Sons, we're talking about embodiment on all levels. All levels, thoughts, words, actions. What you eat, what you consume, what you listen to, and what clothes you wear on your body. We're even going there. If you're interested in getting some sacred swag, go to shop.sacredsons.com and particularly check out the collab piece we have with One Golden Thread. It's a new collaborative co-creation, which I'm so excited to share with our community. And with that, our guest today, Jeff Scult. He is the founder of One Golden Thread, and he has created a regenerative fashion brand that uplifts people and the planet. Please welcome Jeff Scult.
Adam, it's so sacred to be here. I appreciate you, what you're putting out to the world, the gift that lifts. We are all sacred sons.
We're all sacred sons connected by one golden thread. And I love this collaboration. I just want to say off the top, you got all my sacred sons brothers rocking the softest, most delicious clothing. The fabrics that you use, we'll get into why and what it is that you use, but Kevin Walton's rocking it. Our bro Jason Lobenstein, all these brothers have shifted their clothing wear to one golden thread.
It's an amazing thing to remind ourselves that as somatic embodied beings, that our skin is our largest organ. And if we talk about being these sovereign swords of feeling beings, we can remind ourselves of that every moment by the receptors not closing them off, but keeping ourselves open to it all. And it's a real thing, and this is somebody that never even gave a shit about clothing, never thought about it. Maybe I was wearing ego clothes, but this notion around what are we-go clothes?
Yeah. And
we-go clothes are actually where we're actually doing something in harmony with Mother Nature. When we're doing something, when we wear it, we look in the mirror and we see ourselves as opposed to some facsimile. And, this is with full humility and tact. I wasn't a clothing designer. I just was paying attention to men and the dearth of options out there. And it didn't even start as a clothing company. It started with a single golden thread. To remind others what it took me half a century to be reminded of by myself, which is we are truly all golden inside and connected better together by the gold that resides inside us.
Truer words have never been spoken. We say we rise together. And, when I look at your garments in the menswear that you have, I've referred to it as like Jedi clothing. Sacred Sons, some of us, we walk this world as, we're human beings, but there's a part of us that wants that Jedi life. And we dance in ceremonies, and, it's important to acknowledge it's not quite fashion, but it's function as well. And so that's what I love about the clothing. I also love the fact that for every piece, you guys are planting a tree and in keeping with that sacred reciprocity. So we're going to get into all things One Golden Thread today. But before we do, I would like to invite us to take a deep breath for ourselves. Feeling into our bodies, feeling into our hearts, feeling into that river of life. And Jeff, on this beautiful day, what is most alive within you?
The releasing of whatever may be the lie within the middle of what we believe. We're all reclamation projects, and it's a powerful thing to deconstruct identity and to realize that truly there is a lie within our beliefs. And literally, if you look at that word, I'm I'm a linguist by nature. My mother, she was the punniest person I know. My father was very precise with his words, and literally, there's an LIE right in the middle of what we believe,
Mm.
and it's a powerful thing. Um, we're babies out of this pandemic, and let's not forget, what we were able to unpack during that. And so for me, it's a constant exercise of remembrance, which gives me permission to release those stuck stories and to reveal anew. And I look no father, I look no further than my 90-year-old father, you know,
Mm.
who is still um, expanding, who is still listening, who still is open to learn, and therefore gives himself permission to lift from the inside out. And that's what I feel. And when we got on this call, I mean, I've been going through a lot. We've all been going through a lot. We are all in the middle of a rushing river,
Yes.
um, and yet the banks we can smile at, because the banks is what give ourselves that container to thrive. And that's what's stable, that's what's solid, that's what gives us the ability to find our way, just like a river, as we talked about. It's never stuck. it's
Yeah.
just it's just taking a moment to reconstitute its direction. So that's what's alive inside me, which is just that, the inner peace that comes from the power of knowing we will always find our way. But it comes from releasing all that stuck stories, all the stuff that we harbor, and we're constantly like calcified as
Yeah.
human beings. And so it's that constant practice and process of cleansing. And it's not easy, but we know that it can be done with ease if we just get it into practice, because it creates a different muscle memory, and you just never forget it.
Beautiful. Man, you brought through a lot there. You brought through so much, and it resonates with me because this will be my check-in. I have been going through it, and I'm just coming off traveling with my three kids and with Hannah and with family, her family, and lots of movement, lots of kind of like ungrounded. And I'm just kind of settling back home before another big jump off. We're heading to Scotland with Sacred Sons. And so, yeah, for me, I have to come back to the pieces in my life, the pillars of my life that keep me grounded, that keep me rooted. And it starts with family. And sometimes even that becomes ungrounded. And so I have to go through my own cycles and process of death and rebirth, and uh, stop thinking so much of who I am and forget who I was yesterday, so I can be who I need to be in this moment,
Yeah.
so I can be in the game. So I appreciate the humility that you're bringing through with that, and fully resonate with that rushing river. And I was expressing to you, man, sometimes when that river's raging and those banks are getting splashed, you just gotta jump in and be in it. And so I surrender and I'm in, man. I'm fully in. And so, with that, I was looking at some photos. Some of my brothers are already over in Ireland. They just completed an immersion. They're rocking your dusters. We're all looking forward to more pieces from One Golden Thread. But I wanted to ask you, what inspired you to create this brand?
Yeah. So it was back in 2015, and the quick backstory prior to that was that in my 40s I was sick, and I was consistently sick. I had flu-like symptoms twice a year, like you could set your watch to it. I had pneumonia 3 times in 7 years,
Mm.
in my 40s. It all started in my throat chakra,
Mm.
up in my lungs, and then I was toast. And like I said, hospital. It was a thing, and I came to realize, through a series of crucible events, that the most important thing we can do is to claim our golden voice.
Mm.
We all have a gift to share. This notion of like expression opens up all the channels, because if we just simply communicate our truth, because it's important, it's timely, and it's shared with loving kindness, we can say anything to anybody at any given point. And then if we surrender to the outcome and detach from somebody's response, we're sharing in life. So One Golden Thread didn't start as a clothing company. It started by, on the buffer day of a plant ceremony, my first plant ceremony. What came out as a rushing river on the page was what became a Life 2.0 letter to myself, which I called my Humanifesto.
Mm.
And it was all about the reframes of everything that I had told myself a lie about: fear, pain, ego, love, all of it. It all was a recapitulated people-pleasing lie. And to come into the coherence, I buried that for another year in 2014 to 15. But at the end of 2015, what happened is I shared it for the second time with a perfect stranger, and he asked me what I was going to do with it. And after I shared him this spoken word piece for 4 minutes and I channeled, shared it, he looked at me and said, no, 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 I'm asking you, what are you going to do with this? And I said, who am I to share? I'm just Jeff, I'm just a man. And he looked at me, and in 33 words, 33 words, this perfect stranger completely altered the course of my life.
Can you recall those 33 words?
Adam, we're on this planet for 3 reasons: to learn, to love, and to share. And if you're not sharing your gifts, you're being selfish. Quit being so fucking selfish.
Wow.
He poked me in the chest. And in those 33 words, I realized everything I told myself about, if I'm sharing, even like right now. Previously, if I was talking this long, I would think I was being selfish, narcissistic, or egoic, or all 3 of those things. And I would have rear naked choked myself, out of speaking.
Right.
Right. And I realized in those moments that this is what we do. And I had a golden message to share. This Humanifesto was what was burning inside me that I was suppressing. And within this, I realized that the whole essence of the Humanifesto was reminding ourselves that we're already and we're always golden inside. And so I went around, I left, I walked away from a misaligned business partnership where I was a 50% co-owner of a business that was successful, but it was misaligned. And I was marching into my integrity of energy, into my energy of integrity, into my character. And I realized, I don't know why, but I had this calling. There's an expression, it's a dream that keeps coming back is no longer a dream. It is a calling.
Yes, I love
I
that.
was following the calling to go around the world with these golden threads, tie golden threads on people's wrists, and share this Humanifesto.
Oh, wow. So the original mission was just you were going to share the Humanifesto.
Yes.
And remind people that they are golden.
That's it. And there was a golden thread.
Wow.
And I did that. I tied tens of thousands of golden threads. I was invited into Berlin and the West Bank and Israel and Mexico, and I got invited in all these communities to share this spoken word piece and to inspire conversation, because I came to realize, Adam, the Humanifesto wasn't about me. It wasn't a story about me. It was a story about we.
Yes.
And so that even gave me more of this buoyance, of this lifting. It wasn't even buoyancy, this lifting gift to say, like, I want to share this because there's no answers. I have no answers. I only have gateways of my own understanding. that might inspire gateways of your own.
Right.
And so I shared that. And then I realized, you know, that this was more than a moment in my life. This was my life. This
This
was
was the
me.
mission.
This was
It's
my
more than
mission.
a moment. It's the mission. Yeah.
It wasn't a moment, it was a mission. And so I wanted to create something that was elemental. And I wanted to create a sacred business around it. So I founded it as a public benefit company, which means that social good is at our core. And a give back impact is central to our model. And then I wanted to create a piece that was elemental, and this number that kept it moving around me and through me, and I was seeing it everywhere, was this number 108. I'm not a numerologist, I'm not a woo-woo guru guy, but this number just kept showing up. I'd show up in a special hotel for New Year's and there's number 108. There's a side of the boat as I'm walking and I'm contemplating my life, and so there's number 108. It just kept showing up. And so I realized 3 months into this journey that I wanted to create something elemental, and it was going to be around the number 108. Because if you want anything that's infinite in the world, or you want unity of community, it starts with yourself. The 1, the O, and the 8. But 108 is also the number of interconnectedness of all things and beings in the universe, including nature. And so we created this icon that became the icon for one golden thread. The 1, the O, and the 8. And again, if you want anything infinite or you want unity of community, never forget, start with yourself. And then everything moves.
I love the breakdown of that logo. I've seen that logo so many times, and now I have a completely new appreciation for it.
And then
what I wanted to ask you at this moment, though, is when the shift happened for you, when you began to use your voice, did the sickness subside? What physiological changes came from this new awareness?
So my journey of claiming my voice started my birthday, 2012. So June 25th, 2012, I took a workshop at Esalen called Claiming Your Voice. Again, as the precursor, I was getting sick twice a year habitually. I say this with no bravado, I just say this by way of fact. Since I claimed my voice in June of 2012, I have not been sick. It's now been 10 years.
Wow.
Do
you attribute that to, the ceremony and the sacred plants that inspired you to use your voice? I mean, what do you attribute this shift in your health to?
I attribute it to the workshop that I took that gave me a self-permission to shift and pivot. And I realized that I didn't need to change, which is another whole construct which we can get into. I don't believe in change. I think change is because I don't believe in the condition that we can ascribe ourselves to around change, because within change we have shame and blame and less than and what have you. And also think of like a steamship that needs to change its course. I mean, it's going to take a long ass time to change its course. But what if we can give ourselves permission to shift, pivot, because we realize that it's already inside us. The codes are already written. We're already golden inside. That we can give ourselves permission to move through the world in a different kind of a way. That's where things started amplifying for me. So look, it's been messy. There's been crystallized moments, but I've been expressed. I have not been blocked.
Nice.
That's the secret sauce of what you're doing. Thank you for the blessing. That's the secret sauce of what the mission is of One Golden Thread. That it is literally that we are already and always golden inside, connected is better together by our inner nature as one golden thread. Now, why clothing? I wanted to create, look, if the codes are in our body, the receptors is our skin. And the one thing we have in common when we're not naked is we wear clothing. And yet clothing has closed off our receptors for years. 97% of the clothes that we wear are made of synthetic fibers. Now, I'm not talking
Right.
about the Sacred Sons community because I think that there's a more conscious, I'm talking about as humanity.
Yeah, and
And
there's been this big push towards fast fashion, where
sure,
you go to H&M, Forever 21, whatever kind of shop, and these clothes like are designed in a way they fall apart, after a short amount of time. These are not clothes built to last.
the,
And in fact, a lot of it ends up in landfills. A lot of it ends up, you know, filling up, continuing to pollute our world.
well, look, I mean, when we say things like, yeah, it's polluting and there's a lot and this and that, it's unless you understand the gravitas of it and the fact that if you're talking about doing things for your generation, not just for your kids and kids generation, but this generation,
Mhm.
um, it's important to know what a lot means. Clothing is soon our most polluting industry. That cool little number that your girl, your lady's wearing, or what have you, that she got, that X, Y, or Z, or the things that we're wearing. Look, fast fashion has taught us that our clothes are disposable. I'll
Right.
share with you four numbers that everyone should know.
Mhm.
Um, 80, 87, 38, and 3, or 3 and 38. And specifically, I'll walk you through them. There's 80 billion new pieces of clothes made every year.
Wow.
87% of those clothes will wind up in an incinerator or landfill within 18 months. And that's less than like 7 wears because people just think our clothes are disposable. Of those clothes that wind up of that 87% of 80 billion, only 10% of those are made with sustainable fibers. That means 90% of those clothes are going to be plasticizing our soil and toxifying our ocean. Now, okay, those are just numbers, but what does it actually mean in terms of the ripple effect? 38% of the microplastics in our ocean come from the clothes that we not only toss, but also wash. Because when you have
Wow.
something that's polyester and you wash it, 64,000 particles will go into the waterways. So
Wow.
clothing is soon our most polluting industry. It's almost already there. But the worst thing about it is it's polluting for the next 1,000 years because
Yeah.
that shirt that's plastic in the landfill is not going to decompose. It's just going to keep producing the plastics that become the microplastics that ultimately become the nanoplastics. Now, I just want to share one last thing because, and look, I'm also, we'll talk more about this in a second. I'm not a problemist. I don't like talking about the problem because I believe we're solutionists. We can be proactivists versus activists.
I think it's important to note it because I don't feel like we, the society at large, understands, not only the problem but the potential for solutions.
Exactly. Exactly. And look, I mean, the problem part of this is like, it's the frog in the boiling pot. We all know the story, but for those that want to just be reminded of it, is the pot enters the tepid water of the pot and it's chilling, enjoying, and the water is getting warmer and it's like, oh, this is nice, I'm swimming and I'm enjoying it. The way the frog's mental capacities, synapses work, it will never realize there's a danger zone until it's too late and the frog is fully cooked. It's the condition of the frog, which is the condition of the human, the human part of the condition.
Yeah.
Um, so so know that it's Earth's biggest problem that could be the easiest solution.
Yeah,
Because what if,
I want to sit in it for a second. Not like in the pot, but I want to sit in this understanding of fashion and clothing being one of, if not the largest polluter. I don't believe that this is common knowledge.
No,
And
no.
and I'm guilty of it. I'm not better than anyone. Listen, you know what I'm saying? Like I have bought clothes from these places as well. I'm clothing my kids. We do our best to go to thrift stores and to use secondhand and things like that. Truly, but when thinking about that, I even like this point about when you wash your clothes and how these microplastics are getting into the water system through that means. Like, wow, that's something I've never considered.
Well, I got to tell you, I mean, look, I mean, thrift, I believe in upcycling. I love it's better in your closet than it is in a landfill. But know this, that item from a from a thrift store that's made of polyester, every time you wash it, you are contributing to part of the problem, which is 64,000 particles are releasing into the waterways, which we drink, which gets into the fish, which ultimately we then are ingesting plastic. It's a real thing.
Yeah.
So look, it's a massive problem, and sustainability is not the answer. Sustainability is the most Herculean greenwash term in the history of greenwash terms. If I asked every one of your listeners to define in their own mind what sustainability means, and you get in a room with everybody, you would have 108 different answers. There's 108 different people listening to this. Sustainability is ambiguous to define, it's impossible to model, and it's impossible to measure. Because what are we sustaining? First of all, as humans, we're always going to take more than it takes to more than we need. It's like an all-you-can-eat buffet of being a human being. So
Certainly in American culture.
Certainly in American culture. So we can go beyond sustainability, which does mean using natural sources, but seeing business as a collective force for social good. Government and governance will not get us out of the problems we're facing. As individuals, we can do it, but as a collective, we can create. We can create the magic. So we believe that the answer is to follow on the heels of regenerative agriculture, follow on the heels of the food revolution, which is regeneration, which is using systems that are infinite cycles. And that means what we're doing, and that's why we're planting a tree. From one beech tree, we can make 108 Sacred Sons shirts. Every Sacred Sons shirt, we plant a tree. So therefore, our impact is 1 to 108x. From one beech tree, we are planting 108 trees with 108 sold. So it's a very powerful concept. And this is not new. Every business, we believe, should be looking at themselves through a lens of how can we give back more than it takes to create.
Yeah. And there's the sentiment of leave no trace. And if I was to define sustainability, because you're saying it can't be measured, it's like, well, sustainable for how long? And sustainable for whom? And so I like what you're saying, that it's regenerative more than it's about sustaining.
Yes. You have 3 kids?
Yes, sir. I have 3 sons.
Okay. How old are they?
6 months, 2.5, and 7 going on 8.
Okay. So you sit your 7-year-old down who's going into what grade next year?
Second.
Son, your goal is maintainability. I want you to get a C average. That's what sustainability is. We're gonna keep the status quo. It might be the least inspiring goal, let alone the fact that it's not modelable or measurable. So we can go further, and it's powerful to see ourselves as solutionists as opposed to problemists, to see ourselves as proactivists versus activists, because we can talk about the problem all day long. Excuse my French, but fuck the problem. Let's just create a better product. Let's create a product that allows us to live compromise-free. Let's create a product that is so strong, you couldn't rip this if you tried. You couldn't rip this if you tried. So it's durable. It's built for life. It's here for you to be comfortable in your skin, to remind you that we are somatic beings, and it's powerful. And so, my passion comes from the fact that I designed all this for me. Like, this was the clothes that I couldn't find
Yes.
that had form functionality, that had great feeling, and that had a sense of like effortless style. I just felt good in my clothes. I want to feel as good as in my clothes as I do when I'm, getting is jumping in a river naked, and that's how I feel.
Yeah, I love that. I love this concept of being proactive, and in that proactive nature, we are co-creating together.
Yeah.
And so I see you as, really the tip of the spear in this mission. And how are you co-creating, like, within one golden thread? I'm really curious about who it is that's actually planting these trees. That's a lot of trees. Like, can you give us some of the meat and potatoes of what's happening there?
Yeah, so it's a really powerful thing for us all to look at ourselves not as saying, well, who do we have to support us on our mission, but who do we have to collaborate, which has a shared mission and values.
Right.
When vision and values and vibration all align, that's when it's literally like a centrifugal force, or the concentric circles of the tree, which I always look at in my mind's eye of how we're creating. So for us, it starts with innovation with our source partners. We are working with the best and the brightest in the world that are doing innovation with nature, that are innovative by nature. They're sourcing specifically the beech trees of Austria, in Lenzing, Austria. And these beech trees are trees that naturally regrow on their own. Now, what's the ethics and the integrity and the character that feeds from us to them and from them to us? Well, they're using 85% renewable energy to harvest these trees and to manufacture, from the forest to the chips to the fiber, making it into the fabric that ultimately become one golden thread. So 85% renewable energy at the source. Also, look, I mean, it takes incredible, not just energy, but also there are chemicals that are needed to take the nature and turn it into the state that allows it to still be activated and be pure. Those chemicals can be bad for the river. Nothing's perfect. But we're working with a source manufacturer that has a water desalination plant that returns the chemically infused waters back to the rivers as fish safe. Also, it's about the integrity of the source. There's a lot of people that are, excuse me, using tree fiber for clothing.
Yeah.
But they might be cutting down old growth forests. This is not a Lorax story. If it's a one golden thread product, you're guaranteed that it's no old growth forest, and it's only beech, which is a tree that, like bamboo, that regrows on its own. So
Yes.
that's an example of a partnership at source. Then what about the other end of the funnel, which is the infinite loop? We're in partnership with a Vermont-based NGO called One Tree Planted, and One Tree Planted plants trees on 4 continents, and they have a multinational structure of local volunteers, as well as oversight through this incredible NGO. We are in deep collaboration with them. We go to tree planting events. We just went to one in California where we actually got our hands in the dirt and actually had a chance to doula that tree from a pot into the earth. And it's a very powerful process to actually get our hands into our mission, beyond just talking about it. So that's an
Yeah.
example of from the head to the tail that becomes the tail of the head, because it's all infinite. And then in between, we've created a clean supply chain where this is not manufactured in sweatshops overseas. We're manufacturing in family-owned, women-led, minority-run factories in downtown LA, in the cities of angels. That's where we're doing most of our production, as well as in Mexico. And
Yeah.
so the factories are we pay, not minimum wage in LA, we pay benevolent wage. So, we're caring for these families. And so you can feel if you're feeling when you put the clothes on, people don't just say, oh, this is a soft shirt. They're saying, wow, I don't know what's going on here, but there's something somatically happening in my body. I've had people say your clothes feel like it's alive.
Yeah.
I've had people look in the mirror and say, like, I look like myself. I don't look like somebody else being a facsimile of myself. I look like me. And that's where, we do strategic alignments with, and we're very, proud to be in sacred alignment and partnership with Sacred Sons, because that's who you are.
Yeah.
You're about look in the mirror and be the person you came here to be, because you already are. You already are. So partnerships throughout the supply chain are key. Also, and this is something which, honored that we really are starting this process with Sacred Sons, but we are open as sacred business for your sacred business, because we are now seeing ourselves as a community thread, which was always the vision of One Golden Thread, which is a thread that connects us all. So our clothes are now sacred blanks for sacred brands.
Yeah. I want
Sacred blanks for sacred brands to be able to create that collaboration where we then spiral this outward. I mean, listen, I'll just share this. Well, I think you already asked me a question. I did want to share something.
Yeah. Hold it if you can. I want to go into the sacred business aspect. But this is important for me to say. This is not like your 90s hippie hemp wear. And like, I respect hemp as also a renewable, a regenerative product, but these clothes are soft and they do feel alive. There is something special about them. And I don't take you as like a diehard hippie, you know what I'm saying? So, but what was that transition like for you, coming out of, your words, a business that was not aligned, and like really having the intention to create a sacred business and to create a sacred business partnership? I have my own experience of that with Sacred Sons, and I want to inspire others
Yeah.
who know that they're in a dead end or in a career path that is not in alignment with who they truly are. So you're one who has done it. And so what was that particular journey like for you?
Well, I'll tell you another one of those crucible moments that I was in a sacred men's circle, by way of a Zion National Park. It was another transformation week workshop, and at the midway through it, I had a chance to sit. We each had a chance to have a one-on-one with the one of the key facilitators there, and I sat with this gentleman. His name was Mark, and he asked me a question, and whatever I said, it felt like I was regurgitating something that was a masked version of myself.
Yeah.
And he said to me in these exact words, "Are you tired enough of being this version of yourself? Because it looks exhausting. And I can tell you it's exhausting for us."
Yeah.
It's a powerful thing to allow yourself to confront yourself. And sometimes that needs to be inspired by somebody confronting you. And when it's coming from a place devoid of ego, and it landed in that moment in my body, I mean, it was literally like a lightning rod up from the ground and a lightning rod down on the ground, and it met in the most unlikely of places. And I'll share this because it's pretty fucking funny. It landed in my nipples for the first time. Like my nipples just went, "Pah!" like it's turned out, I mean, it's really fucking revealing and hilarious, but it's my ultimate truth serum. Like if my nipples get hard, it's because you like something landed so powerful.
Some truth activated. Yeah.
Truth like antennas for the universe, you know, like kind of. But back to back to the real. With that is the real. I mean, it's all, everything I do is the real. But that was one of those moments where I came into that coherence of like, like Byron Katie says, is it true? Where I actually asked myself,
Right.
was I living my truth? Was I operating? And what I realized was that what my father said to me when I was age 12, really landed, which is, what is character? Character is what we do when nobody's watching.
Yes.
And then what is integrity? Integrity is the consistency of doing what you're doing when nobody's watching. And that for me was that just this moment where I realized like the consistency of my character was the energy of my integrity, and I just chose that I wanted to be that for myself, and maybe in doing so I might inspire one other person to do the same.
Yeah. And
Because
was there,
so many inspired me along my way. It's we're not intended to do this in four white walls alone. We're intended to do this in community. We're intended to do this by seeing ourselves as a self-catalyst and seeing others as being a catalyzer for us. So that's what so many did for me, and I'm just here to pay it forward.
yeah. And was there I hear that there was several moments for you, but was there a moment of transmuting the fear of like, this is where I'm comfortable, this is, I got a successful business going, I'm going to leave it behind for my truth? You know what I'm saying? How did you get over the hump and say, you know what, I'm all in,
It was
I'm diving in?
it was finally those 33 words.
Yeah.
Those 33 words.
Yeah.
To remind, because I was reminded in that moment that I was on this planet to love and to learn and to share. And that I realized that if I wasn't sharing my gifts, that I was being selfish. And I was ready to stop being so fucking selfish.
Yeah. What does your father think about what you're doing now? I know he's in his elder years, but does he have an understanding of what you've created?
Thank you for asking. It was first, when I was out around traveling around the world and tying golden threads on people's wrists, and I'd left a business that was paying, and I'm not that guy that's independently forever wealthy, and I'm rich within.
Yeah.
But it was he didn't quite understand it, but he was supportive, and he sat back, and he witnessed, and he watched, and he listened, and he learned, and look, I mean, we're not on this planet to be validated from our fathers, if we really get into it. And yet there is something, there is something so heartwarming, is to meet on the C2, to meet on the bridge, and see see our fathers as a man, and have him see you as a man, and to see that through a lens of mutual admiration, is one of the most beautiful acceleration points of my life, and it just keeps getting better and better and richer. And so yes, it's a very beautiful thing to receive that message of pride from my father. And yet it was a very interesting thing that in the past that probably would have almost brought me to my knees of like, like I've succeeded, but it felt like we'd been there all along, and we just cleared the muck. So it was good. Like when he told me recently on his 90th birthday, we were gallivanting around Europe. I mean, like he's a, you know, like he's an 18-year-old kid, just every meal the Last Supper, first one up, last one to gelato, you know. I mean, he just said how proud he was of me, and it landed in a way like what I said was something I never would have said before. I said, I'm proud of you too.
Oh man, that's a moment. That's a real moment.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, back to my father, because the one thing I wanted to say before I forgot, because it's for any of you out there that are either in the middle of or considering starting, you know, a business that has, you know, impact and has importance and that has meaning and that has, you know, regenerative spirit and sustainability and, you know, better for the environment, better than this, you know, the most powerful thing I learned in business, I learned also from my father, but also from my dog when I was 5 years old. So Sam had worms, and we had to give him a pill. And so my dad, you know, who's a total G. I mean, you should have him on the podcast. I mean, he's amazing. But anyway, like, he said to me, he said, Jeff, we need to give Sam a pill. Come over here. How do you think we need to do it? And I said, well, I was excited because my dad was asking me for my opinion. And I'm like, well, we will hide it in his food, thinking that I like crack the codes to the universe. And he said, no, actually, dogs are smart and they're kind of like cynical. They'll taste it, they'll feel it, and they'll spit it out because it doesn't, it's like you try to put something by them.
Yeah.
And he said, if your dog needs to have a pill, what you need to do is wrap it in something sweet. And then the dog will swallow it all day long. So we wrapped it in peanut butter, and there's Sam just lapping up the pill, and it's sweet, it's delicious. And I have to tell you, I did not heed my father's advice or Sam's advice, you know, when I started One Golden Thread. I started One Golden Thread by talking about it as, you know, the importance and the numbers of this and the calamity of the problem and this and that, and we're making.
But you neglected to wrap it in something sweet.
And I realized that it always was something sweet. We just simply needed to remind you that living life could be this sweet. You can live it compromise free. And listen, you know, One Golden Thread was not a straight shot. I mean, you talk about a hero's journey, which, you know, I think that I will share this story because I think that it will land as something important for everybody out there who's going through their own version of that dark night of the soul in their business or their personal life, or who's going through the chrysalis where you're like wondering, like, is anybody really listening? And quite frankly, prior to the pandemic, only small handfuls of friends were listening. You know, I knew every buyer who was buying One Golden Thread. You know, it was friends, and it was friends of friends, and we had this tiny little business that was frankly not slowing. It was not growing. It was slowing. And then March happened, the pandemic,
March 2020.
And that month was realer than real for me because my beloved, my mother, who, you know, was on a 7-year Alzheimer's journey, had a long, you know, her long goodbye ended March 10th, 2020.
Oh, wow.
And I had the noble honor, you know, of being with her and holding her chest as she took her last breath. And out of that, then we get rushed into the river of this pandemic. We had $3,000 in sales the previous month. I had no idea how I was going to pay anyone on my team, my loyal and small and just rock star, you know, handful of people that were lovingly working on One Golden Thread, but I couldn't pay them. And yet we had all this beautiful fabric.
In that moment when maybe you're like, I don't know how this is going to come together.
Yeah.
And in that particular COVID moment, it was like, I don't know if what's going to
Yeah.
happen in the world.
Yeah.
How do you stay resilient? How do you continue moving forward?
I'm really appreciative of you asking that very important question, because it took me a minute to get there, and it was unpacking the difference between uncertainty and doubt.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'd love to hear how that lands for you, but I'll share from my perspective what that meant. Would you like to go first?
Yeah. I mean, when you just said that, um, it's like uncertainty is fear of the unknown. And one of the things that, is always a part of the hero's journey is the unknown. And one of the aspects of this life is to um, acknowledge the fear and to move forward, face everything and rise, you could say. Doubt is lack of passion, belief, understanding, all of the things which is really something that is crippling. Doubt can be crippling. Uncertainty can be exhilarating if you allow it.
Mhm. Could not could not have could not have articulated it more poignantly and perfectly. Doubt is the ultimate doubt is the ultimate motherfucker.
It's the ultimate sabotage.
Doubt,
In terms of like that self-sabotage, it begins with just an inkling of doubt that creates a crack,
so,
and that crack. So
well,
and
uncertainty is not knowing exactly how this is going to go.
yeah.
Doubt is the disbelief in your ability to navigate those waters, and
Yeah.
and to see that maybe the way to navigate those waters is how the big wave surfers survive the biggest spills, right?
How is that?
Well, we perceive that if you're in a channel underneath the water, and you're in the spill, and you get a glimpse of the light, you don't know which way is up or down, but you see the light. The first thing to do is swim like hell
Mm,
to the light. The reality is now you're fighting the undercurrent. But if you surrender to the current, it will gracefully, beautifully lift you to the light.
yeah.
So
In my experience as well, it's like it's not about the how. It's always about the why.
yeah,
And that's how we meet the uncertainty. That's how we are able to surrender in the face of whatever it is that we're facing.
yeah,
And when we allow ourselves to like come into contact with the remembrance of the why, the how, and all the other questions that need to be answered, spirit is with us, in those moments, and it all starts to unfold. This has been my experience in it.
so
It's letting go of like, how's it going to happen? How are we going to do this? It's like, no, we know why we're doing it.
yeah. The uncertainty also there's a beauty of uncertainty, which it opens you up to your creativity. Because it's like, oh, I don't know, maybe I'll play with it, I'll do something that I never would have thought. But so doubt.
Yes.
So I had some dark nights of the soul with doubt, where I cried myself to literally to sleep, and it wasn't even my mother. It was because that was, there was a twisted gift within that, of which is a whole nother beautiful conversation, which is even like the seeing things through a lens of maybe, there's a twisted gift within everything. And
Oh yeah.
even my mother, being able to peacefully pass in her with beautiful peace and presence in that moment. And
With her son by her side holding space.
I would not have been able to be there a week later, because everything got shut down to be with loved ones. So
Yeah.
there were so many blessings within that my mother did not die alone.
Mm,
But back to this notion of uncertainty and doubt, and the journey, the hero's journey, is we had $3,000 in sales. I had no idea how I was going to. There was complete uncertainty into how this was going to go. But I had this beautiful fabric. Then I heard this. I started seeing all this news reports of that we were going to create a Mount Everest of single-use plastic masks that were going to forever decimate landfills and clog our oceans. And it was, but nobody was thinking about it because it was just land grab and people were hoarding it. Because people were hoarding it, there was another article that the persons experiencing homeless in LA couldn't even go into food banks because they didn't have a face covering. And so I thought to myself, well, what could I do in beautiful legacy to my mother? What could I do if I'm going to go, if, you know, I never visualized one golden thread not finding its way, because the golden thread always weaves. Like I was still, remember, this all came from Sacred Humanifesto, and it was divinely guided. But, you know, I said, well, I do have this fabric, so I'm going to do something in memory of my mother, in benevolence of these homeless souls who can't even be fed because they can't go into the food bank. And so I created this tree fiber Versa wrap that you put over your face. You know, I know you have it.
Yeah.
It's multifunctional. It's an eye mask. It's a crown wrap. It's all the different things. But for every one sold, we donated one to a homeless soul. It caught on. Forbes wrote a story about us. It caught on. Thousands of people bought the Versa wraps as an alternative to single-use plastic masks to allow themselves to breathe. To allow them.
Sacred Sons purchased a few hundred of them for our gatherings when that was a question. Like, hey, if a brother, I feel called to share this with you because you may not know, but at our Convergence for October of 2020, it was like, there are going to be guys that come that choose to wear a mask, and there's going to be guys that have a thing about not wearing one. And so how we utilize that Versa wrap was every man is going to have it on his being for the duration of our time together, which was 5 days in the desert. You can wear it as a mask, you can wear it on your head, you can wear it as a wristband, but we're in solidarity. We're not in this divisive mask debate here. So, so this piece of cloth that you brought forward in dedication to your mother, I just want you to know we utilized it in the most unifying way. And we had a moment, we were doing what we call sacred mirrors. We had this particular event was 150 men. And so we had 2 rows, the men are all facing each other. We had them all masked up, faced up with the Versa wrap, and all in synchronicity, we asked them to remove the mask, you know, just to lower it. And in that time, in that space, in that moment in 2020, that was a statement. You know what I'm saying? And so I just want to thank you for those Versa wraps, man. It was powerful. And I love that that's the piece that kind of turned it around and kept the business expanding.
That's the piece that somebody felt it on their face and they said, I want to feel this in my entire body.
Yes.
I want to feel, okay, now I go and I say that they say that they've created the world's perfect tea. I want to try that. And then I want to try this that feels like it's the duster that, is a piece to take with you as you move through the world to protect you from the elements, because reminding you that you are the elements. And so it went. And so our business the next month was up 10x. And then a few months later it was exponentially up. And then we built the team and built an e-commerce online business. And we received outside seed funding last fall for the first time, because I was bootstrapping the whole thing up until that point. And we're in the process of planning for our Series A this fall. So if anybody's listening who's a sacred impact investor who wants to learn more, I mean, for me, we're not looking for money, we're looking for energy. And for those that are looking to impact with energy, that's who we are and what we're about. And it's a powerful thing, again, that we get to do this in co-creation, we get to do this in collaboration, and we can do this in community. And I really believe that as a planet, we can see that business can be this collective force for social good, that we can come together in circle and we can unite, but we can also invite ourselves to ignite as humanity. And it really, this is not an impassioned plea. This is who we are, and it's what we can do because we can just choose to be, and it's a real. And
Mm.
so it's all about, creating these concentric circles that then can overlap, and we can see that we can be in sacred solidarity by being sovereign beings ourselves.
Through the one golden thread that connects us all. You know, one of my takeaways from this conversation and in your experience, I love that you have the masculine presence of your father, and then you have the feminine magic of your mother, because I really see in your story that in your mom's passing, like she was with you on this mission as well. Like your father really gave you the constructive pieces that you needed, but your mom brought that magic. And when I hear that story, that I'm just feeling that she was with you in that moment. And for me to know that after I've created my own relationship and stories around these Versa wraps and the dusters and the shirts, it's like to know that that vulnerable and like sacred piece of the story is really meaningful.
Well, thank you for recognizing that, and it goes deep. And I'm actually looking for something on my phone to show you, because my mother, and her art. Um, my father was a naturalist. He took us into nature. And my mother was a naturalist artist, and her art was all about nature and us as one. I mean,
Mm.
she would have art where there would be tree limbs coming from the heads and what have you, reminding us that we are nature. So, this has been in my DNA, um, from the beginning. I just ignored it for half a century. And the irony is, I don't know if you're familiar deeply with Thich Nhat Hanh, but
Hmm.
he coined the term interbeing, which is the most powerful precepts of the way that we're all living, which is this notion around we can see ourselves as being um, part of the connectedness that creates the thread of unification. So it's a very powerful thing. And ironically enough, just to show you that this whole mission has been divinely guided, interbeing as an order was framed between the years 1964 and 1966. The year of my birth was 1965. So this is just, whether my mother's art, my naturalist father, interbeing, the 108, I mean, all these various things have just been such a beautiful journey, and reminding ourselves that something as simple as clothing could be the most simple thing that reminds us that we are connected as spirit.
My favorite Thich Nhat Hanh quote is that the next great Buddha will not come in the form of an individual, but be in the form of a community. And I'm paraphrasing there, but the important piece is that what we are looking to now is community, is connection, is co-creation. And that is exactly what Sacred Sons and One Golden Thread um, are bringing into the world, into the conscious space.
Yeah.
And I love that you're doing it in an embodied way from top to bottom, from the heart always. But man, I really feel your mission and the depth of your passion for creating what you know is possible in this world.
Yeah. Well, these are just words, right?
Yeah.
But it's really powerful to unpack words. And, even the notion around like unpacking community is like come with unity.
Hmm.
And maybe the new way to really to see this. I used to see community as something that was like a savior for me, or I used to see it change the world as being something that was somehow saving. But the reality is that if we come with unity inside ourselves, it's such a powerful thing. And that's why, you know, um, you know, Sacred Sons is like starts with sovereign. You come as your sovereign self. And
Yes.
then that's the solidarity, as opposed to like we can white knuckle clutch something that we think we need to hold on to. And the reality is that when we see that we are a community of one, that concentrically spirals out into the broader community, it's such a powerful gift, because then I'm not waiting to be saved. I'm not waiting to be told.
Yes.
And listen, this is this is all new for me. I'm a solid 8 years old. You know, I mean, I'm a solid 8 years old. I'm a
Yeah.
57-year-old 8-year-old. You know, and so the stuff that I'm sharing with you isn't that I've been living and breathing this from day one. It's the fact that I wasn't this, and so I can speak. You know, I'm on no bully pulpit here. I'm just,
Mhm.
all I'm speaking of is from my own experience of of realizing that our most precious asset is our time. And I'm not saying I wasted time, but I definitely sat on the sidelines of the playbook of life for a long ass time.
Yeah.
And if I can, be an inspiration, as so many were an inspiration for me, to remind ourselves that there's you know um, there's players and well, I'll say it this way, because this is the most powerful thing that that somebody said to me. They said, "Do you ever feel that you are a supporting actor in your own life movie? Because if you do, there's only one lead actor, and it's time for you to be that lead actor." It's,
Truly.
it's just, it's a real.
Yeah, this it's the journey of it's the journey of self-realization. It's the journey of awakening. And so thanks for waking up, man. Thanks for waking up early and right on time. I don't tend to see it as a waste. It's like I see it as being right on time.
Yeah. Otherwise, I yeah. Thank you for that. And you know, we're we're each our own reclamation project, and
Yes.
um and it's such a humbling thing to realize, um from where we've came, and within that is to realize that that we can just choose to remember, and there's nothing more powerful than a superpower, than self-awareness. And Ram Dass says, come back to your center and then you can move in any direction. And so, every time, and it's not about falling out. I let go of all that as well, that narrative, because I could, it's like, I don't like that notion around of balance. Am I in balance? Am I out of balance? It's just like, no, you fall out of balance. It's cool, fall on your face, get dirty, get messy, and have the self-awareness, say, this is my nature, and I'm coming back to this center, and now I can move in any direction. Um, as I've seen Kevin Walton do, like a ninja badass Jedi.
I also saw you were recently featured in Forbes again. So congrats. I love the rise, man, from the 3K month to being featured in Forbes for a second time. Like, this is powerful. And so with that, Jeff, would you please leave the brothers and sisters who are listening with this humanifesto?
Mm. So it's a three-part story. It's your story of intention, integration, and ignition. It begins where it always begins, to realize and rise, to remember that there is no enemy inside, to simply quiet that riot is to live life alive. Right here, we each get to choose freedom from resistance to fear, to now swim in our dark with open eyes. Years of fears rise to wisdom sparked from an open heart. Right now, choose to breathe with your pain. Life lessons will be revealed, your most treasured human gains. Each and every moment, choose to choose love, kindness, and soul. and your inner ego will shine as your quiet hero, your river, your life to flow, letting go. Pain to pleasure, imagined failure, euphoric once again, chasing the light, lost in the dark. This day, choose to receive those highs and lows as illusions, just the same. Our past stories that self-judge and criticize, choose to see those as lies in disguise. And in this current moment, choose your current experience as the master guide of your why. So if that's our intention, how do we integrate it? And for me, it came down to some words scrawled on the wall of a temple that I didn't know. It said 5 simple words: love thyself, embrace your shadow. I now allow myself to see and be seen. Thus, I see you and you see me. Our minds unlocked, our hearts unblocked, our voice reclaimed. Those 3 keys released. The alchemist's search for answers in others may cease, opening me and we to just be free. And within that good vibe, we now know our lighthouse shines from inside. And when we stray from our way, the gift of our birth is returned grateful from our inner nature and the green and blue grace of Mother Earth. So if that's integration, how do we ignite it? How do we light it? And it starts with the obliteration of the greatest lie ever told, which is the illusion of separation, not between us, but between nature and us as one tribe, open, unified, electrified, a planetary magic carpet ride, outrageously courageous. You're ready for this. Right here, right now, moment in time. Self-love invites and ignites a shared love. Whatever your chosen energy source, feel that beacon course through you as your life force. This emotion is our devotion in motion. I love the way we love, because we love to live and we live to love. Awake in the chance. And when we stumble, perfectly imperfect, we make it part of our dance. In our world, we are surrendered to love. We trust the trust because it resides inside us, ignited all around us. The love that you are is the love that we are. We are all golden, invited together as one golden thread. So, lead with love, be joyful, live curious, adventure to discover, embracing your life as an animal of life, always a playful lover.
Oh, choose love, kindness, and soul. Thank you. Thank you, Jeff, for sharing your story, for sharing your passion, your humanifesto. I really felt that as like a love letter to yourself. And I can feel the spirit in those words. So thank you.
It's an it's an honor. It's an honor and a blessing, and to all those that came before me and come after me, we're all ancient newcomers, and you know, I'm. Um, I say this with so much sovereign pride that I'm nothing without you. Like I really, it means we're here. Um, we're here for the greater good, and in four white walls, my creativity is nothing. I'm a listener to life, and I'm a lifter by seeing the love that that just simply is liberated all around me. So it's a cool time to be alive, gentlemen. It's a cool time to be alive, and we get to write the script.
We get to I would say we get to transform our dreams into that calling. So step up, answer the call.
And that's the transcendence.
Yes.
That's the dance of the transcendence.
All right, Jeff, you and I, we could do this all day, brother. So we'll leave you with that. Get your One Golden Threads.
It's onegoldenthread.com. And for those that are listening to the end, or to the beginning, which is the beginning, which is here, when I get off this call, I'm going to create a sacred code, which is Sacred Sons 11. So everybody's going to get special Sacred Sons pricing. Dusters, tree shirts, tree pants, Milanos. Get geared up, because you know what? It's a cool thing to see the codes that are being expressed on the outside of our bodies that just remind ourselves of how good we have it inside. So we're here to weave with you, and it's an honor to do so.
And with that, Jeff Scult, Adam Jackson, Sacred Sons, One Golden Thread. We're out, family. Peace.